I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
It seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. We're taking a break from the Joe Biden re-election will he or won't he withdraw drama that's been going on for weeks now, and I thought, given what happened yesterday in Congress, today would be a good day to talk about political narcissism, which is a topic I discuss in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, which is available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. I actually did a lot of research into the topic of just narcissism in general, because you wouldn't believe how the traits transport over to politics really, really well. This is from the Mayo Clinic. I actually cited it in the book. Narcissistic personality disorder, one of the several types of personality disorders, is a mental condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance. Sound familiar yet? A deep need for excessive attention and admiration. Getting warmer, right? Troubled relationships, oh boy, and a lack of empathy for others. If that doesn't speak directly to this man, Congressman Eric Swalwell from California, I don't know what does. Now, normally, Swalwell loves committee hearings, especially House Judiciary Committee hearings, where he gets to needle Republicans. It seems to be what he really likes to do. But yesterday, instead of him doing the grilling, he ran up against a master chef. Ooh, the sweet smells of Ben Shapiro cooking Eric Swalwell was wafting through the House Judiciary Committee. We're going to look at what happened between these two, but before we do, please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on the channel, please smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really, really good stuff, because all of that helps grow the show thanks to the YouTube algorithm. As always, thank you guys so much for all that you do to help grow the channel. You know I really appreciate all of those efforts. And for all you newbies out there who may be finding the channel for the first time, I hope this video earns your subscription as we talk about this interaction between that buffoon Swalwell and Ben Shapiro. Now, Shapiro was appearing before the House Judiciary Committee to testify about the Global Alliance for Responsible Media's alleged targeting of his company, the Daily Wire. But that's not what Swalwell wanted to talk about at this committee hearing. He wanted to talk about something called Project 2025. It's something that Democrats have been overly obsessed with to cover up for Biden's mumbling, bumbling, and stumbling through this campaign lately. What followed was Ben Shapiro trolling Eric Swalwell to the point that everyone in the gallery was cracking up, and it even drew some remarks from his colleagues in the committee. So by now, you guys should know, if you've been following the channel, what these committee hearings are all about, right? We're in the House of Representatives, which means that the Republicans are in control of the committee. They have the majority on it, which means they also get to set the agenda. In this case, the agenda is to discuss collusion by an organization called the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, and Ben Shapiro is appearing there to discuss this censorship that this organization is trying to do in targeting the Daily Wire. But congressmen on the other side of the aisle in the minority, they don't have to stick to the agenda. They can ask questions to whomever they want about whatever they want, or even ask no questions whatsoever. So Eric Swalwell, being the smug, arrogant buffoon that he is, this narcissist that we were just talking about earlier, he's not going to stick to the agenda. He's going to talk about whatever the hell he wants to talk about. Why? Because he wants to get the clicks, he wants to get the views, he wants to own the right in the form of Ben Shapiro this time. This is a high, rich value target for him. If he gets Ben Shapiro bumbling and stumbling like Biden, he scores some major points in the culture wars. He's going to get all the views on the Twitters. He's going to get all the followers everywhere. So his goal is clear: to embarrass Ben Shapiro and to make him seem like the far-right MAGA extremist that he says everybody is lately. So let's get into the clip and see how Swalwell tries to accomplish this goal.
Thank you. Mr. Shapiro, thank you for joining us today. I think it is important that you're here as one of the leading conservative voices in the country. And the country has, in the last couple weeks, talked a lot about and Googled Project 2025. It's one of the most Googled search terms right now. And you're not going to get any censorship from me. So I just wanted to know, from your perspective, I think it would help us understand, on just like a scale of 0 to 100%, how much do you support Project 2025?
Now, as we're watching this clip, I want you to think of this as sort of like a ping pong table tennis match. Swalwell is serving the ball over the net, and honestly, it's a pretty weak serve. It doesn't have a lot of mustard on it. He's assuming that Ben Shapiro knows what Project 2025 is. After all, everybody's Googling it now, right? I don't even know what it is. I haven't even looked it up. But Swalwell thinks that every conservative knows this. He's probably just assuming that Ben Shapiro, being as learned as he is, he knows what this is. Watch Shapiro slam this weak-ass serve right back over the net at him.
I think, like President Trump, I haven't looked all that deeply at Project 2025, but it seems that Democrats on this committee, sort of like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, if they say Project 2025 enough, their presidential candidate becomes alive again.
Roasted!
Obviously, you heard the reaction from the crowd. Shapiro slams it back over the net at him. He doesn't really have an immediate response for it. But it's kind of Swalwell's fault here. He assumed that everybody knows about this, didn't want to explain it, and just tried to get Shapiro to answer on a scale of 0 to 100 or something like. I don't know what he was really looking for there. Probably just introducing the topic, but Shapiro's not taking the bait. He's going to make Swalwell work for it and sort of go through what he means by Project 2025.
Well, let's just talk about pieces of it, and I guess you can tell me if you support it. You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency.
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely.
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents would be proud.
Welcome to the team.
All right, so a little friendly banter there, but you see, Shapiro is right on it. He's actually agreeing a lot with Swalwell on a lot of issues. If Swalwell's goal was to make Ben Shapiro look like a far-right MAGA extremist, maybe he shouldn't be agreeing with him on a lot of topics from something that is supposed to be a far-right policy platform that is scary and anti-democracy and a threat to us all.
Mass deportations, it calls for that. Do you support that part?
I support the deportation of any illegal immigrant who's in the United States who is not of benefit to the generalized American public.
So if they're picking agriculture that puts food on the tables of everyday Americans, they've never committed a crime inside the United States, they didn't come across with documents, should they be deported?
You see what he's doing there? Playing on the stereotype of what a migrant, when an immigrant, when an illegal immigrant would be. Now, this is just flat out racism, in my opinion, saying that, migrants come here to pick agriculture from fields. He's clearly not been to the People's Republic of New York City, where people just come here and stay in cush hotels, get a debit card from the city government, and many of them start committing violent crimes, as we've seen over and over again in this city, at least. He hasn't seen the stereotype of hardworking immigrants going through the actual process to become an immigrant. Many, like my friend Jack, who I helped sponsor to get here, for example, who had to go through an arduous process to come here legally and is now gainfully employed, living the life in the city with his family, just had a baby, and is living the American dream. He wants to focus on the stereotype of the low education, menial worker doing jobs that apparently Americans don't want to do. Is that what he's going for here? Trying to play on sympathy against Ben Shapiro. But he should know by now that Ben Shapiro does not care about your feelings. He's all about facts.
if they have not paid taxes and if their draw on the taxpayer benefits are larger than the contribution they are making to the economy, or if they're involved in criminal activity, they should be deported.
How do we measure that?
The same way that the IRS measures my income every year. It seems like if the IRS can track down every aspect of every receipt that I've ever submitted, and
So
they
if
can do so for hundreds
pay-
of millions of other Americans, they can do that for illegal immigrants as well, except for the fact that no one knows how many are in the country thanks to this administration.
Boom, mic drop.
He keeps slamming the ball back over the net at Swalwell. It's what Ben Shapiro does. Did Swalwell not do his research on Ben Shapiro? Does he not know that he's on his game all the time, 24/7? He has facts at his fingertips. He has his arguments planned out. He clearly has established what his political positions are because he's constantly talking to people. He's constantly debating people. Did a piker like Swalwell really think that he can go at Ben Shapiro and him not be prepared for it? That's the political narcissism that I'm talking about here. There is this arrogance, this smugness, this audaciousness that is completely unearned and undeserved in his mannerism, thinking that he's the best there is and the best there was in Congress right now. He's sitting in that high podium talking down to that witness like he normally does, thinking it's just going to be another walk in the park and he's just going to be able to say whatever he wants to say. But that's not what's happening here. Swalwell's political narcissism is getting the better of him in this exchange early on.
So you would be cool with creating a system where they could pay those taxes if they wanted to and then stay and work and put food on our table?
It depends on how long it would take for them to pay the taxes, and they would also have to go presumably to the back of the line, although I'm not sure why I'm testifying about immigration policy at this point.
Shapiro again slamming it over the net right back at him. Remember what the topic of this was? Censorship and the targeting of this global alliance organization towards his company? Censorship? You remember the House Judiciary? This making any sense to you, Eric?
McFly! Anybody home?
Eric Swalwell's attempt to hijack this part of the testimony is not going well. And when we come back, believe it or not, it gets even worse for Eric Swalwell. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. At this point, Swalwell changes tacks to talk about more personal issues that will show Ben Shapiro being socially conservative.
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that part?
I think that that's a state-by-state issue on a personal level.
I'm just asking you.
Sure, I'm a fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of the distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage. What about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
Now watch what Shapiro's doing here. He has his own personal position, but then he has a position of how he thinks government should handle these issues. And they're separate and apart from what he personally believes. Ben Shapiro is not here to impose his religious beliefs on America. He has his own informed opinion for himself socially, and then he has his own opinion institutionally for how government should handle these things. How abortion should be handled state by state instead of handled by the federal government. How government shouldn't confer benefits on same-sex relationships. Those are his positions on what government should be doing here, and I'm sure he has his own reasoning for it. I assume it's to promote family values in government and things of that nature. But Swalwell is sort of conflating those two, and I think that he thinks he's getting his gotcha moment here in trying to get Ben Shapiro to talk about his personal views informed by his religion, his tradition, his heritage, and his values.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
From a religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
Okay.
And again, Swalwell is trying to lure Shapiro into his trap. He thinks he's being so slick here. Shapiro sees it coming a mile away, separating out government functions from his own personal religious beliefs. It's really that simple, Eric. I mean, I think everybody sees what you're trying to do here. And you're looking for that gotcha. And I saw your staffer putting up that, that placard, that graphic that all these members of Congress like to do. They love their demonstrables in the background. Let's see what he tries to do with it.
And how about cutting Social Security? Do you support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025's position on Social Security is. I'm in favor of the restructuring of Social Security along the lines of privatization and lowering and increasing the retirement age, because you, as well as every other congressperson, knows Social Security is going to go bankrupt, and yet everyone seems to have an interest in lying about it for the next decade and a half until we have to take austerity measures or radically increase inflation or taxes.
And bans against books about slavery. Do you support that part about?
Why would I possibly be in favor of bans about books about slavery? That would be absolutely ridiculous. What I am in favor of is the idea that school libraries should be able to make decisions along the lines of what exactly is appropriate for, say, a 7th grader and whether they ought to be treated to cartoons and genderqueer. That's not quite the same thing.
I at this point, I don't know what Swalwell's doing. I'm trying to understand the logic. I'm trying to understand the questioning. I mean, he's supposed to be an attorney, right? And attorneys are supposed to be trained in structuring their line of questioning. I know as a trial attorney, I do that. But what's he doing here? If his goal was to try and make Ben Shapiro look like a far-right MAGA extremist, he's not doing a great job of it. All of these straw man arguments that Democrats have put out there about banning books, about, you want to ban books about slavery, about their positions towards same-sex marriage and abortion and all these things, all these stalking horses that he's putting out into the field, Shapiro is just very easily maneuvering through, explaining clearly what his positions are. And I'm sure many people who are watching this are going to understand they're not that extreme.
It's reasonable. It sounds reasonable. That sounds reasonable to you?
Swalwell trying to, I guess, villainize and vilify Shapiro here. It's just not working. He's coming off very much a reasonable, sound, coherent person, which in this day and age in politics lately, it's very hard to come by somebody who actually makes sense when they open their mouth.
I understood that reference.
And just because we found some receipts, you did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious Jew,
I'm
that's
sure
true.
there's a genetic component.
You found me out.
Orientation. But the view of all religious people I know has always been that sexual behavior is something that is up to you. And you said, I may have a desire to sleep with many women, but I do not.
I agree with me. Yes, that's true.
Oh, man. This is not the own that you were looking for, Eric. This discussion of Ben Shapiro's beliefs, which he's open and honest about. This isn't a gotcha. He's got receipts. This is a statement that's widely known. All of his positions, especially informing his religion, they're known. They're out there. If you're a dummy, you're a buffoon if you don't know it. You think you're exposing some great thing here, showing him how extreme he is? This is the view of every God-fearing person, or at least should be, if you believe in the tenets of your Western religion. What's the goal here, Eric? What are you trying to do?
Obviously, Taylor's thinking. I don't know what the hell he's thinking.
Congratulations on your, I'm sure it's very hard to restrain yourself. Mr. Chairman, I just want to.
Okay, so there's the pot shot that I guess he was working his way up to. It didn't really land. He didn't give it enough time to react.
Pretty lame, huh?
But really, Congressman, do we really want to talk about sexual desires and allowing our sexual desires to guide us in our lives? Let's compare you and Ben Shapiro for a moment, shall we? Ben Shapiro, married with children, living a very happy life, following and living his values, passing on those traditions to his family. Kind of like the American dream. Whereas you, as far as I know, I don't believe that you're married. I think you're single. No big deal. But you did allow your desires to lead you into the arms, supposedly, of a Chinese spy.
Flashback.
A bombshell new report says a suspected Chinese spy targeted California politicians. One of her biggest targets was Bay Area Representative Eric Swalwell.
End of flashback.
And then he ended up having to report that to the House of Representatives, and it was a whole big to-do about all that. But mainly it has become a vector of attack for the snarky people on X and the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the social medias to go after Eric Swalwell for anything he says. He puts out a snarky comment. Hey, aren't you the guy that let Fang infiltrate? Wants to talk about a policy position or an election coming up? Hey, didn't you screw that Chinese spy? That's what's out there about all that. So if we're talking about letting our sexual desires lead us in our lives, Ben Shapiro showing restraint is a bad thing, but the way that you're acting, supposedly, is a good thing, right? This is not the own you're looking for. You keep stepping on rakes here. Now, apparently, he's got something to say to the committee chairman. Let's see what this nugget is.
Shift to Alvin Bragg. He was supposed to be here this week, and he's not coming. And Hunter Biden was supposed to testify. Now he's not testifying. We were supposed to have votes on articles of impeachment, and we didn't. And again, we're just wondering, you guys write great press releases, but the payoff seems to never come. And so I guess we will keep waiting, and we'll do hearings like this. And finally, Chairman, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, and that's a restriction on speech, as you have recognized before. But you can yell theater in a crowded fire, and you all can continue to do that all you want, and we'll just waste the American people's time.
What the heck was I talking about?
What the heck was he talking about?
If you guys can translate that for me, I don't translate English to moron or moron to English. Can you guys tell me what the hell he was talking about there? Talking about, you can't scream fire in a theater, you can't scream theater in a fire. What? Who's in a fire? Who goes into a fire to scream theater? What kind of stupid analogy is this? Again, this is not the own you're looking for. You're 0 for 3, Eric. What's going on in that pea brain of yours? Your narcissism has taken over your reasoning, sir. You're trying to get that gotcha. You're trying to make fetch happen. It's not happening, Eric. You're not smart enough to make it happen. You're not planning out your vectors of attack well enough to make it happen. You're not making sharp enough questions to get the answers you're looking for. You're a failure. You're really bad at this. I don't know why you think that you're good at this. You're really, really bad at it. And if that wasn't enough, the chair of the committee had a nice parting shot, a nice little zinger for Mr. Swalwell.
Time has expired, and I remind him of the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging.
Sage advice from the chair of the committee. Oh yeah, you get that wood-fired smell from the grill. Does he use like the seasoned pellets, or what does he use there? I'll tell you what Ben Shapiro's recipe is for grilling buffoons like Eric Swalwell. First thing is, he's prepared. He has well-defined policy positions. He is ready to articulate them. He has like elevator pitches. You notice he's concise, he's quick, he's to the point. He has a mental Rolodex that is second to none. The second thing is, character matters. Ben Shapiro not only talks the talk, he walks the walk in his life. He talks about traditional family values. He lives a traditional family life. He talks about his religious beliefs, and he is socially conservative outwardly as well. It's not just talk for him. So when he comes up against these buffoons out there who try to challenge him, they all fall the way that Swalwell did. Now, Swalwell is a particularly egregious case because he is engrossed in getting that spotlight. He has that political narcissism that I talked about earlier. He has this idea of self-importance. He wants to be admired. He wants to own the conservatives. He wants that adulation from social media. He wants to be a high-profile person. He wants to be the guy that takes down Ben Shapiro, except he couldn't do it. He wasn't good enough. He didn't prepare well enough. He didn't have a plan, and he left himself open to laughter multiple times from the gallery, from a very nice zinger, I have to say, from the chair of the committee, and he left with a lot of egg on his face. When you go at the king, and the king here being Shapiro, you best not miss, Eric. And you not only missed the mark, you missed the field, you missed the state, you missed the country. You missed so badly, it might have been the biggest self-own of the year, and that's saying something, considering the state of Joe Biden. But listen, hey, that's just my opinion on all this. Let me know what you guys think about what happened here. Did Ben Shapiro cook Eric Swalwell? Do you think it was the other way around, maybe? There are some videos out there saying that dig at the end was a cool thing. I don't think so, but I want to know what you think. Let's get into the comments together. And as always, like and share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. I want to know what you thought about the cookout. Let's talk about it together, and let's discuss all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumbmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.